What a beautiful day for us to gather here in our nation's capital with this important mission before us to rescue our republic. To me, this is exactly what our founders had in mind and what they envisioned for us as a country when they said we must have a government of, by, and for the people. When they made that promise to us of our right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These are things, as we gather here, we have the state capitol in the background, the White House just down the street, and many monuments paying homage to those who have sacrificed before us, only to be struck in the face with the reality that, unfortunately, our leaders in office today are not committed to our lives, our safety, or our liberty. Now is the time, though, to not be disheartened by that reality, but rather to be hopeful. As you look around you in this crowd, as you know, there are many hundreds of thousands or millions of people who are watching at home here in America and around the world. We find hope in our solidarity together as Americans, gathering from all walks of life, different political affiliations, but gathering together with optimism in the power of our voices in this election that happens in 38 days. This is our opportunity. Because our opportunity is rooted in our responsibility as American citizens to remember that our founders told us that our government exists only with the consent of the governed. That's us. Everything that we are seeing happening now, the weaponization of government entities, the censorship of free speech, the political retaliation against those who have the audacity to criticize those in power. They are throwing everything that they can at us to undermine our democracy because they are terrified of what a free people in a free society will do to uproot them from their power and bring our interests to the forefront once again of freedom, peace, and prosperity. So I hope you feel hopeful as I do, that as we are surrounded by hate, we confront hate with love. That as we are surrounded by darkness, we confront that darkness with the light of the truth and common sense. And that literally, as we are surrounded by warmongers rapidly beating their war drums, we stand strong and speak with clarity and courage for peace. Now, as you know, I've served in the Army now for over 21 years. And so for me personally, and for all of our veterans and servicemen and women who are here today, we understand how important the responsibility is that every president has to serve as commander-in-chief. This central responsibility to keep the American people safe, to secure not only our lives, but our liberty, to uphold the rule of law, to secure our borders. And so I'll start here with the unfortunate failures and exploitations that are occurring at our borders. We have some people from California here today. I went and visited your border in San Diego not that long ago to go and see for myself what was happening there. And what I saw was a well-oiled machine driven by the cartels and the so-called immigration industrial complex working directly with them and profiting off of this well-oiled machine. open borders that have been enabled by Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, not to express their compassion as they say, but to exploit those who are coming across our border and being trafficked by this multi-billion-dollar cartel industry. What I saw there were people coming from all over the world, across the border, knowing exactly where to go, not to evade Border Patrol, but to be picked up by Border Patrol, waiting patiently to be loaded in the vans, where Border Patrol have become nothing but Uber drivers for them, where they're quickly processed through a system that often within 24 hours gets them with a free plane ticket to anywhere in the country, often never to be heard from again. What I saw as I stood in a parking lot near a train station where many of these drop-offs occurred were human traffickers who were waiting, women who were being drugged unknowingly, and in their foggy state of mind being ushered into cars, never to be heard from again. What I saw was CEOs of these so-called nonprofits who are working directly with the cartels, with CEOs being paid over $1 million salaries. All of this being done in the name of compassion. But who is the compassion for, really? Who really is benefiting? It is the cartels. It is the nonprofits that are making money off of these people being trafficked without a care for the over 325,000 children who are missing, many of whom are likely being abused in our country today, without a care for the over 425,000 convicted criminals who are in our country, illegal immigrants, not a care for those who are illegal immigrants, 56,000 who have drug convictions, 14,000 who've been convicted of burglary, 13,000 convicted of homicide, over 16,000 who've been convicted of assault. This is who they have compassion for. What about having compassion for the American people? For the communities not only in our border states, but in every town and every city across the country that is being confronted with challenges, with increased crime, with less security, with social safety nets being stressed beyond their capacity. When I saw that Vice President Harris went to go visit the border on Friday, we all saw it for what it was. 38 days from Election Day. It's not okay to say better late than never. She doesn't get a pass on this one. But when I saw her give her press conference and her speech that was clearly read off of a teleprompter, word for word, it made me sick, because it once again was a demonstration of her arrogance in lying directly to our faces, that after 3.5 years of telling us that the borders are secure, she stands there and tells us that we have to have rules in place that must be enforced to secure our border, and that she as president will do that. She hasn't done it for the last 4 years. We shouldn't believe her lies that she will do anything differently. She's prosecuted and sued and gone after the governors of these border states who've taken action in the absence of federal leadership to do their part for their citizens to secure their borders. And they're still fighting to do that today. Whether it's the border or just about every other challenge and issue that's facing not Republicans or Democrats, but all of us as Americans, it's clear that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are not interested in solving problems. They're not interested in securing our border. They're not interested in truly reforming our broken legal immigration system. They are more interested in allowing people to illegally cross our borders but will turn their backs on people like a close friend of mine who has served as a Special Forces soldier for over 30 years, who simply wanted to invite some of his family members who live in Italy to come to his retirement, who applied for a 2-week tourist visa and were denied. More of their policies of America last. We need to send a strong message to them that we will not come last anymore. The American people and our country and our freedom must come first. Who we choose to be our president and commander-in-chief is a critical decision. It always is, but it is especially critical now. We sit closer to the brink of World War III than ever before. We sit closer to the brink of nuclear war. According to the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, their doomsday clock is set to 90 seconds before midnight. We are one spark away from our demise directly because of the policies coming from the Harris-Biden administration. So it matters very much who we choose as our commander-in-chief. Now, President Eisenhower warned us in his farewell address about the military-industrial complex and their cozy relationship with members of Congress and how they are ruining our country and our future. Unfortunately, and I can speak from firsthand experience, that relationship is more cozy now than ever before. The brazenness of members of Congress conducting insider trading, investing in these very big defense contractors just before they send out another $8 or $10 billion to Ukraine. Just the other day, we had the Pennsylvania governor, Shapiro, who flew in President Zelensky on a U.S. military plane, not so that they could stand together and call for an end to the war. No. They instead went to a factory that makes bombs where Governor Shapiro, with a grin on his face, signed one of those bombs. How sick of a state are we as a country when our elected leaders celebrate death, war, and destruction and sell it to us, the American people, as an American jobs and economic plan. This is Kamala Harris's opportunity economy. More war, more money for the military-industrial complex. My first deployment to Iraq was in 2005. I was serving in the state legislature at the time. I stepped down from that seat and volunteered to deploy in a medical unit where I was confronted with the high human cost of war. It was the first time in my life that I had experienced and seen firsthand the war profiteering that goes on. For those of you who served in Iraq at that time, and I hear it's still going on in Europe today, KBR Halliburton remains one of the biggest defense contractors profiting off of war. We had KBR Halliburton logos on our porta potties, on our tents, and on our trash cans. A friend of mine who was deployed to Poland recently said, nothing has changed. Now, who was one of the people that profited off of this? Dick Cheney. Where is Dick Cheney today? Dick Cheney is standing proudly with Kamala Harris, who has said that she is proud and honored to have his endorsement and his support. Now, for the young ones who may not remember, Dick Cheney was the architect of the entire disaster that has been created with all of the problems that we're seeing play out in the Middle East today and other parts of the world. He was the architect of the lie about the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. He was the architect behind the regime change war and the destabilization in Iraq that caused such chaos and loss of life and destruction that created the fertile ground for the rise of ISIS. That is the Dick Cheney who Kamala Harris is honored to have his support. So for those of you who may be at home watching, or for those of you who have friends who are still not quite sure who to vote for in this election, I'll make it very simple. A vote for Kamala Harris is a vote for Dick Cheney. A vote for Kamala Harris is a vote for the neocon warmongers. A vote for Kamala Harris is a vote for the military-industrial complex. A vote for Kamala Harris is a vote for nuclear war. I endorse President Trump in this election because to me, as an American, as a soldier, as a veteran, there is only one choice that is our best hope to walk us back from the brink of World War III and nuclear war, to get us back on that path where we can stand with hope as Americans for a future of peace, prosperity, and freedom, and that choice is Donald J. Trump. You won't hear anyone in the mainstream propaganda media talking about the reality of the threat of war that we face. A war that threatens not only our physical safety, but our liberty and our freedom. Just as we have seen through every major war and conflict before, those in power, those who gain from us being in a constant state of war, exploit that opportunity to take away more of our freedom. And as you know, once it's gone, we never get it back. The Patriot Act was shoved through and rushed through Congress in the days after the terrorist attack on 9/11, passing all of these egregious overreaches into our privacy and our civil liberties, violating the Fourth Amendment, not because they were truly needed because of 9/11, but the national security state saw an opportunity and they took it. And they said to anyone who opposed the Patriot Act, you are a traitor to America if you vote no. Taking advantage of the fear and concern that the American people had during that time of tragedy and grief, here we are over 20 years later. The Patriot Act was just reauthorized once again this year. And rather than the usual rubber stamp that people like Tom Massey and Justin Amash and Rand Paul and I fought against every single time, they took what was an already egregious abuse of our constitutional rights and freedoms and fomented fear yet again of foreign threats to our democracy and our freedom, to take an already bad Patriot Act even worse, to take away even more of our rights and freedoms, and both Democrats and Republicans voted for this. We will not see change unless we hold our leaders accountable to uphold and defend our Constitution that we've all who served sworn an oath to support and defend. The fear-mongering will continue. The lies will continue. Their propaganda will continue because they don't care about the American people. They care about power and greed. Our opportunity is to recognize and acknowledge and speak proudly and truthfully that it does not have to be this way. This is not a foregone conclusion. The purpose for our gathering here today and across the country is to recognize that we have a no-fail mission before us, and it is an urgent mission. Peace, prosperity, and freedom in this country are what is on the line. And now is the time that we must be willing to set aside our differences, perhaps disagreements on other issues, and come together today in the same way that our founders did in the beginning of our country, to stand together on those fundamental principles that are enshrined in our Constitution and our ability to truly live in a peaceful, free, and prosperous society. We must send a powerful and boisterous message, loud and clear, to the warmongers in Washington that we will not allow you to destroy our families. We will not allow you to destroy our loved ones, our communities. We will not allow you to destroy our planet, because we love this country and we love each other. And we want to make sure that we've got a future that we can live in and leave behind. If we stand together on no other issue but this, then we can wrestle power away from the military-industrial complex, break through the gridlock that they have created, close the revolving doors that allow them to exploit their power, and put we, the people, back in charge. I leave you with this. A wise man once shared that we are the spark that will light the fire of change that can restore the vision of our founders, of Reverend Martin Luther King and President John F. Kennedy, where we can stand free and true and proud as Americans. The source of that light, the source of that courage that we will need in this fight comes from love. God's unconditional love, our love for each other, and our love for this country and our future. Thank you for standing with us today. We have 38 days to make change happen. Thank you so much. Aloha. Thank you. Thank you.
Tulsi Gabbard, everybody!